and let's talk about the recent performances, because obviously if you look at the form table, we're currently the form team in the Premier League. 4 wins in the last 5 games. I don't think anyone is in as good as form as us when it comes to the actual
we seem
results.
To be destroying teams.
We seem to be destroying.
Well. Everyone comes to us undefeated, and then we beat them.
Absolutely, but if in a weird way, if I'm taking the performances in isolation, the Forest game we won 2-0 wasn't that impressive a performance, but we got over the line. We beat Everton 2-1 again, a game that was definitely in the balance, but we ended up winning the game. Against Brighton, obviously, we got a bit destroyed, had a bit of a late rally, but ended up losing. And then on the weekend, we beat Bournemouth 3-1. Good performance. Well, so we've scored some good goals, but again, it wasn't a game we were fully in control with, and another day, maybe that result would have been different. So for you, Rez, when you look at our recent performances, are you looking at a team you think is in good form, or maybe do you feel like the results are better than maybe the performances have been?
The results are definitely better than the performances have been. That I will categorically state. We're not there yet. What I've seen creeping in recent times has been a slight reversion to type that we saw before Ange was in charge. That sort of tentative, slow, deliberate play. Whereas in the run-up to the sort of games against Everton and Brighton and Bournemouth, we saw some unbelievable, beautiful play that it seemed so instinctive. I remember sat there, I think it was against Newcastle, where I was watching some of the passages of play, and it was just one touch, bang, 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 passes back and forth. What I saw against Brighton, what I saw against Bournemouth, what I saw against Everton were stuff like that whole trap, look up, choose, and eventually pass. And the pace was just slowing down. I think it comes with the territory of transitioning from one style to another, new manager, new ideas coming in. It's part of the process. But right now, we're not playing wonderfully well, and yet we're still picking up points. That, to me, speaks of a bright future if this manager is properly backed.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think obviously, I think the performances maybe haven't been their best in the last few games, but you can clearly see what we're trying to do, and I think a lot of the problems have been the fact that we've got so many players missing, and we're having to make do with what we have. And I think he is making the best of what we have. I don't think we can expect much more. And I think even though the performances in terms of dominance and control maybe haven't been the best, when we've needed those moments of quality, we've come up with them, and that has made the difference. I'll go to Brian though on this one. What have you made of our recent form in terms of, are we lucky to be where we are, or do you think in terms of the results there's nothing to be negative about?
I don't think we're lucky to be where we are, especially with the injuries, how the team have performed. I think you look at it, Everton and Bournemouth, we had our moments where we were on the ropes, and if they were a little bit more clinical, it could have really punished us, but they didn't. We got the job done. I take more of we got the job done whilst not playing the beautiful, wonderful stuff we saw against Newcastle constantly. You look at Brighton now. Brighton, to me, was an absolute disaster. That first half was just unacceptable. The beginning of the second half was. But in the second half, when we started fighting back, I looked at it, and obviously, Richarlison came in for a lot of criticism for being offside constantly. And it's something he needs to work on. But I also looked at it and thought, you know what? If James Maddison or Bentancur's on that pitch, those passes for where Richarlison scored, those balls are passed quicker. Those balls are into Richarlison quicker. And the goals have a very, very good chance of standing. It wasn't just bad forward play. The midfield wasn't doing what it should do or could have done. We didn't have those players that had the quick speed process of thought to release the ball quicker. So at Brighton, we were humble. With Brighton, we were an absolute car crash and we got punished. But what I'm taking out of these games is we're not playing at our best. There's moments where breathtaking. Some of the football in the Everton game, like that one-touch football in the centre some of it was breathtaking, but some of it was very, very concerning. But the most important thing was when we had to get a result, we dug it out. We got there. Can we say that over the last few seasons? We can't. We saw what happened last season where we went one down and everything just fell off a cliff. So I still think our form can get a lot better. I think the performances can get better, but the big teams get the big prizes by winning when they're not performing well, and that's something we've actually been able to do recently, which is what I'm taking more positively than negatively.
And Shawnee, how do you assess our recent form? Because it's interesting, isn't it? When you look back at that 5-game winless run, we probably had performances in that run which have probably been better than some of our recent performances. Maybe even games we've had more control, but we did go for those 5 games without winning, and we ended up on a really bad run of form. But no one really panicked because they could see the performance level was still good. How would you assess our last 4 performances? Is there anything to be concerned about, maybe with our lack of control in some games, or do you just feel as soon as we get some players back that will be absolutely fine?
I'm not sure I feel necessarily the same as a lot of people do, especially about the Bournemouth game. For me, look, Tottenham's performances depend primarily for me on what Tottenham do in the game and whether or not they are sloppy on the pass and sloppy on the control. If their first touch is not quite on it, then Tottenham give up chances. And if you're going to give up chances in this system, then you're going to face a lot of opportunities against you. Against Bournemouth, personally, I know that the game changed when Sarr went off injured and just seen he's signed a new contract. That's fantastic news, Look, I think that this system is about calculated risk, and we throw people forward. We go after, we go at 100 miles an hour. It's like we're always playing like we're 1-0 down. And even if we're 2-0 up, we're still doing the same thing. And occasionally, if things don't go right, you're going to give up opportunities. And when you ask players like Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie to sometimes look like they're playing as number 10s, they're so far up the pitch, then smart teams are going to know where to put the ball over the top. For me, giving up opportunities like we did against Bournemouth doesn't mean that we played badly. The fact that we got back and handled it, the fact that Destiny Udogie got back and cleaned up his dinner, for me tells me that it's expected. It goes with the territory of the system. It goes with the territory of the philosophy. You've got to shake hands with it. We're going to create some, we're going to not create some. It comes down to whether or not I think we're playing well. It comes down to whether or not out on the ball control, not necessarily controlling the midfield, but what we're doing literally with the control of the ball. If Richarlison's first touch is on, then Tottenham are playing well. If Richarlison can't trap the ball, then we don't play very well. It's that kind of meaningful in the way that Tottenham play. And I think against Bournemouth, even though a lot of people came away thinking that we didn't play very well, I thought we did. Against Brighton, no one was clicking. I felt like we were trying. There was new kind of positional play that I hadn't seen before. Decky was playing as a left wing back. Højbjerg was coming in as a makeshift third centre back at times. There was so much kind of new emerging positions for the players that I didn't feel like the left hand knew what the right hand was doing. The receiver didn't know where the passer was going to put it. The passer didn't know where the receiver was going to go. And there was loads of sloppy turnovers. If that's what happens in a game, then Tottenham are going to play badly and give up too many opportunities, and we're going to get punished by good teams because our players are going to get caught up the pitch. So I'm not too worried about what's going on with the opposition. I think if Tottenham play well, if Tottenham keep the ball and can find the right passes concisely to each other, then I think that Tottenham ultimately will always create enough chances to win the game. But we're always going to give up opportunities because no team keeps the ball 100% of the time. The big difference between a Tottenham and a Manchester City is Manchester City go at 100 miles an hour to win the ball back. And then when they get the ball back, they then slow the ball down and will take 40 passes to progress it up the pitch. It's like I think at Tottenham at times, it's like we're going down the motorway at 60 miles an hour in second gear. And the rev, the odometer's on like 8,000 revs. And Tottenham need to sometimes just kind of relax a little bit. We're going at 100 miles an hour too much. And if you're doing that, you're going to give up and make mistakes with your passing because no one's perfect. But I think Tottenham are playing better football than a lot of people credit, even in games where we're not necessarily convincing. But I think that just,
I think against Bournemouth, we did show some of that sort of sloppiness. We had a lot of wayward passing and a lot of lack of control of the ball. I know that it does rely on, basically turning over the ball as quickly as possible and pressing. But that was the thing for me against Bournemouth. I didn't recognize those players that I saw pressing the hell out of the ball in earlier matches. I mean, it really was a case of, why are they backing off? Why are they standing off? Why are they standing off? We're not seeing this for the last, 4 or 5 months. That's why I think against Bournemouth, our performance was a little bit less than what we've seen. What Ange said, I think it was against Brighton, that they might have been tired, because I saw, again, a lack of press, a lack of intensity. That's where I think it wasn't in terms of whether or not we scored well or controlled or had majority possession. It was some of the hallmarks that seemed to be being instilled in the team in earlier games had gone missing. So that's why I thought we didn't play well against Bournemouth, even though we got the win. I think that just falls down to how lethal and clinical and sharp we were in front of goal. But I think it's all a process. I think it becomes, you can't just immediately do the right thing every time, because you're still getting, as a player, you're probably still getting new information, getting new ideas being instilled. So some of the stuff that's gone before, you might forget while you're thinking about the new thing that you're doing. I don't criticize them for it. For me, it's merely a case of, this is what I observed.
Don't you feel like in the Bournemouth game, though, they always say, when you're on top, you need to take advantage of when you're dominating. And, against Bournemouth, I felt like that's pretty much what we did. First half an hour, we were the better team. We got the opening goal. Then, for the next 40 minutes or so, we were probably, under the cosh for a lot of it, and Bournemouth didn't take full advantage. And then we got a second win, didn't we, around 70 minutes? And we were back on top and got another couple goals. And isn't that what good teams do when they are on top? They take full advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's never a case of the team that plays best wins and the team that plays less well loses. How many times have we witnessed and been on the end of a team that plays utter dreck, but has one player? The one that always sits in my mind is that Newcastle goalie who every time he played Spurs had a worldie, while the rest of the team around him, was rubbish. It happens. It's not a simple equation.
Against Bournemouth, I think we gave up 4 chances, four shots on goal. One of them they scored from Alex Scott. The other 3 from memory were just pot shots from 25 yards that piddled their way to the keeper.
Solanke had a few chances, right? Yeah. Solanke had a few.
Yeah,
the ones that he bodied him out the way, or are you talking about the ones where they hit the bar?
No, there was one that he skied over the bar.
But there was one as well. There was like a ball across the face of goal, and he was attacking the near post, and another day he tucks it away, but he put it wide. And then he had a couple of headers, didn't he? One save from Vicario and one which he just didn't quite catch. They did have the openings, but then again,
this is always going to happen though. This is the system that we play. When you play against, especially when you've got Emerson Royal and Ben Davies, who aren't recognised centre backs really. Who haven't got the pace to get back, and yet you're playing the halfway line as the offside trap against a Dominic Solanke, who I think has been the fastest player of the month, 3 months in the Premier League this season already. You're going to give up those chances. That, like I say, I just think it's difficult to expect the Tottenham philosophy the way we're playing to not give up chances, because you're not going to be able to keep the ball for 90% of the game.
The point is that it's not said in a critical manner of, they should have done it better in that sense. I mean, they could have done it better, potentially. It's merely a case of we are still in that point of moving from one thing to another, and the fact that it's not a simple equation. Again, it's like people that either rely entirely on statistics or those that reject them completely. It's actually a mixture of both, right? You use both to form your rounded thing. It's not as simple as Solanke got no chances or Bournemouth had only 4 shots on goal. Yeah, but what about those shots that didn't hit the target but were from 6 yards out, for instance? There were a couple of those.
No, okay, but my overriding point here is more.
I'm only using it as an example. I'm only using that as an example. I'm not saying specifically in this instance. It's not a simple equation. We are in a period of transition. And
I don't think even when the transition is complete.
There'll be times where we play well and probably come away with a bad result, and then there'll be times where we'll play badly and walk away with the result. I think against Bournemouth we played badly but got the result, and that will happen.
I disagree. I think we played well and got the result. I personally think that you look at teams like Liverpool, who also have a very aggressive style of play. They are always going to give up opportunities as well. So even when we are in transition, I take the point. Of course, we're nowhere near as good as we can be yet, and there are going to be games when you give up more opportunities than others. But I don't think we're ever going to be in a situation where we're flawless at the back. I think that we can't have 15 players on the pitch, and I think that we have to get on board with the idea that even if you give up several chances, it doesn't mean that you haven't played well.
And that isn't what I'm basing my analysis on either. That's the thing. I'm not basing my analysis on that.
What we need to do with it as well, I think, is, like Sean said, if we give away chances because of the way we play, the onus is when we create chances, we have to take them. We have to always take them and be more ruthless. So,
yeah, go on, Brian. Keep going.
No, I was just about to say, there's games where we haven't, like we've created 20, 30 opportunities and maybe scored 2, or maybe even got 1, where we were 1-0 up at half time and we're absolutely blowing teams away in one half. And then the second half, obviously, we hadn't taken our opportunities. Look at Villa; it came back to and that's the part of the thing. If the defence are creating opportunities for the opposition, we've got to make sure the front line are getting the goals to make sure that that's not going to be an issue. And I think that's the balance we've got to try and find.
And that's where I think we fell down against Bournemouth, is that we weren't as creative. We weren't creating as many decent chances as we may well have done. You know, that was where I think we fell down. Okay, we did convert the ones that we made, and that comes down to the chances that were created, especially Richarlison's goal was, an absolute peach of a chance, and you had Sonny, with his eye to goal. It's not the defense for me that made us less good. It was the fact that we didn't see as beautiful and free-flowing a creative and attacking team that we have seen prior to those games.
Yeah, for me, I always kind of judge a performance on how many chances you create compared to how many you give up. And to be fair, probably based on that, you would probably say, we probably did, even though Bournemouth had their chances and they missed them, we had a lot of chances ourselves. Like, we've got to remember that Richarlison chance he was played in and he miscued. Sonny had a number of opportunities down that left-hand side, which he didn't make the most of. Richarlison... Brian Hill hit the bar. Richarlison had another opportunity just after Son's second as well, which forced a save out the keeper. So we did have the opportunities. I just think it came in different spurts. I think it came in like the first 20, 25 minutes. And then I think for the next 40 minutes, we only had one shot. And then we were very much, on the back foot. And then for the last half an hour, last 20 minutes, we had another load of opportunities. So I think on the balance of it, we were probably lucky that during that period, that 40-minute period, we didn't fall behind or concede an equaliser. But I think we also do need to acknowledge that we did create chances in the periods we were on top, and that's all you can do when you got, especially when you're facing teams who have 8 wins in their last 10 Premier League games. Going to come here in high confidence and they play aggressive style of football as well. You got to expect them to, at points, especially with our makeshift team, our backline, they will create chances at points.
Yeah, of course they will.
But we made the most of ours.
The key to an Ange Postecoglou team, from what I've gathered, and I'm not a great student of him or anything like that, I've done a little bit of looking into it. It's about consistently creating chances, right? Consistently being creative. That's what he aims for, so that it doesn't have to rely on super fit players to then overload teams at the end of a game while the others are tiring. That was a bit of what Poch used to do. Poch used to overtrain them so that they were supremely fit. And we used to score a lot of late goals under Poch and win games late on. With Ange, it's a case of you play this way and you create chances. You'll give up chances as well, of course, but you'll create chances throughout a match. Whereas because it's not quite settled yet, because it's not inured in the team yet, there will be periods like that where they can't get it to click, and that is what we're seeing right now. I think that's the phase of the change.
just to touch on your point, Sean, about, we have to get used to the way we're going to play and the chances we do concede. And I agree with you. We commit a lot of risk. The back line is very high up, and the way we play, we are going to concede chances. But if I look at the stats in terms of expected goals against, we're third bottom. Like now that surely, as much as I agree with you, we do play a high risk game. The top three teams in terms of expected goals against Arsenal, City and Liverpool, they also play a way where they're going to commit risk, yet they're not conceding the chances we are. Obviously, it's a process. We're still very early on. But that surely he wouldn't want to be, third bottom for that kind of statistic, right?
No, of course not. But I think that you also have to, marry up how many times have our back four, our first 11 back four played together this year? 10? First 10? After that, I don't think there's been a game where all four have played together.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think they're all learning the new system as well. I think it will get better over time. Like I was saying before, I don't think Rez and I are too far away on our points here. I think we might look at the Bournemouth game, but I think we actually agree very much on the overarching kind of theory that the team are getting better. They're learning. They need to improve. But for me, I just think that if and I'm not saying anyone on the panel is saying that, but if anyone thinks that we're going to get to a point where, we're going to be looking for clean sheets more often than not, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that we're always going to give up those opportunities. Look, there's no easy games in the Premier League. I think that every time you step on the pitch now, there's every single team has got at least one player who can do a lot of damage. And that again, that's why my first point I still maintain is what Tottenham do with the ball, how chaotic we can be at times, is sometimes responsible. We are kind of the architect of our own demise in games where we're going at 100 miles an hour to get the ball back, and then we get the ball back, and then we go at 100 miles an hour with the ball. And that's part of the reason why I think the players, or why Andrew's alluding to how tiring it is for these 11 players to play all the time. Teams that have high press, high intensity formations also have the ability to slow the game down a little bit and let the other teams exhaust themselves chasing after going down blind alleys and chasing after ghosts, right? That's what Manchester City do fantastic. Well, Tottenham don't do that. We get the ball back and then we go again and go again. And over time, that not only does that lead to exhaustion, it also has a higher frequency of injuries that will come from it. But also, you're going to give the ball up. If you're always looking for the perfect pass, or you're always going at 100 miles an hour, we don't have necessarily the most technically fantastic players in our squad yet who can always thread the pass perfectly. So the more you give the ball up, the more chances you're going to face against. And I think until Tottenham iron that stuff out of their game, then
that'll come with time as they get used to each other as well. I think, training together with the new system as well, it's like you'll know where your teammate is in a particular scenario, and it becomes instinctive to then do that threaded pass. You won't even necessarily need to be that technically gifted. It just comes with familiarity of how each element of your teammates will be playing. It's just a time thing more than anything.
The other thing, just quickly on that, not only have our back four not played together since September or October, but when you've got Bentancur in the team and Maddison and Pape Sarr, then you've got three very technically brilliant players, or the highest echelons of technicality within our squad. At times in the last 2 months, when we've gone through that rough patch, we've had Ollie Skip, who there's good things about his game, there's bad things about his game. The bad parts about his game for me are his on the ball, his passing stuff. Yeah. I think Pierre and Højbjerg as well can be a little bit sloppy. And so, when you get Bentancur back and you have Maddison at the top end of the pitch, there's going to be more kind of levers to pull in terms of maintaining and retaining possession. And I think that will then naturally offer less opportunities for the opposition. Yeah. So when our injuries get back, and with time, I think we'll get better and better and better at this system. But I still think that even in a perfect system, perfect viewpoint, we're still going to give up opportunities. I think that just comes with the territory of the system.